Okay, we are back. Episode 3 from Tales from the Cassette. I'm Jeff Beach.
I'm Joey Graves.
And this week we are going to do some album reviews. Each of us assigned the other a couple albums to review that we did not know and have not listened to in the past. And so we're going to discuss 4 albums today. The first being an album from Harem Scarem called Mood Swings. The second being the Struts, Pretty Vicious. The third, Lillian Axe. Why don't you say that?
Psychoschizophrenia.
Thank you. And the fourth, a Foo Fighters album, Medicine at Midnight. So thanks for listening to episode 2, where we talked about our top 5 favorite albums of all time. Great feedback on that. Appreciate that. Continue to send us ideas for future podcasts.
Yep.
So we are trying to do this quicker and do these more frequently. And so the hope is that we'll get into a rhythm of every couple weeks going forward.
And for those who don't know, we're actually sitting across.
Yes, we were in studio
from each other. It looks like we're in different places because the colors of the walls are different. But in the future, we're going to be at our own location.
We are in studio right now together. So, so yeah, in the future, we may not be in studio all the time. The first 3 we are doing in studio. Okay. How about we kick off?
Kick off.
All right. So, as I mentioned, we assigned albums, and some of these albums were on our top 5 list that we talked about on the last podcast, but not all of them. And so we assigned, and in fact, originally I had told Joey to listen to a couple albums that I had in my top 5. But I thought that was too easy. So I changed it up. And since he assigned me albums I had never heard before, I assigned him a couple that he had never heard before. And that's the way we went. And so we're going to kick this off with a band called Harem Scarem.
Harem Scarem.
Harem Scarem. And an album that they put out in 1993 called Mood Swings.
Mood Swings.
All right. And why don't you tell us about Harem Scarem?
Well, I will say both of my albums today, or bands, Lillian Axe and Harem Scarem, are 2 bands that I feel that should have gotten a lot more attention back in the day. Unfortunately, they came out in 1993, and
Grunge.
You know what happened around that period of time.
Yep.
Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, the whole musical dynamic changed back in the early 90s. So they never found that success that I really feel they should have found. I did not find Harem Scarem until later in life.
Okay, I was going to ask, how did you find? So Harem Scarem came out in 87, so that was when we were listening to music. I don't remember you ever bringing them up.
No,
okay.
I never heard them, never listened to them, never even heard of them.
Okay.
Back in college.
So no college listening. So you were in the car together.
I believe I had discovered Harem Scarem and probably in 04, 05.
Okay.
And
wow,
since then, I've been listening to as many albums as possible. I love melodic music. Something with a hook, something with great lyrics. I love lyrics. And song after song on this album,
strong.
Pete L'Esperance, the guitarist, wonderful licks. The album starts so well with Saviors Never Cry and No Justice. It keeps getting stronger as the album goes on.
So I mentioned they came out in 87. So this is their
93.
The band started.
Oh, the band, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this album was in 93. This is their second album.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't listen to the first album, but when I was researching this album, it said this album is a lot harder than the first one. The first one was maybe more melodic rock, like Honey. The reference I saw in the description was more like Honeymoon Suite. Have you listened to the first one?
They're both, yes, I have.
Okay.
Both those bands are actually from Canada, Harem Scarem and Honeymoon Suite. I found this one just to be more catchy.
Okay.
And I'm into music with a bit of an edge.
Uh-huh.
And this
I
had
gathered that.
this had a little edge to it. Nothing Metallica or that hard, but something with a bit of an edge.
Now they've been prolific. So starting in '87, and they also had a period where they broke up and had released 15 albums.
Got back together.
Yeah, 15 albums. So, and in fact, the Mood Swings that I listened to, I guess, was a re-recorded version.
I think you listen to Mood Swings too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which had
but it sounds almost exactly the same.
So, Mood Swings 1 must be harder to find.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, tell us your favorite songs on this. You gave me 4. So the way I did it. Well, hold on before you do it. So the way I did it is I listened to these albums a couple times on some walks, and I listened all the way through. And so, since we were under limited time until the next podcast, I asked you for 4 songs, and then I gave you 4 songs from each album to make it a little bit easier just to get. And so you gave me Saviors Never Cry. You gave me Empty Promises. You gave me No Justice, right? And what was the 4th one?
I think If There Was a Time.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So now what's your favorite of those?
No Justice.
No Justice. Okay. That is a good song. Yeah. It I had never listened to them at all. And so as I was researching the band, I just found it interesting. They have a following. There's a strong following out in
Canada.
Yes, in Canada. Yeah, they have fans though.
Yeah.
There's a fan base that is out there. Do they tour? They're touring now, right?
Well, they do a lot of tours in Canada and overseas.
Okay.
They've never been big in the United States. So, I mean, being in Ohio, my Bengals hat, I would say if they were to play in Windsor, maybe even Toronto, and it was on a Saturday night, I would seriously consider going. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But you've not seen them.
I have not seen them.
Who would you compare them to from that era? What band that would be maybe more mainstream that people would know? Compare them to a band that people might be aware of.
That's hard. You didn't prepare me for that question.
I know. I'm coming out with a fastballs, curveballs.
Maybe I would say Enough's Enough.
Oh, let's see.
But without the Beatle, Enough's Enough is more Beatlesque.
Yep.
This is a little harder, but some similarities in music.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
So what was your overall feeling of the album?
You know, I mean, listening to it basically a couple times and then a couple more times through of favorite songs, I was picking it up, you know, getting used to the songs, enjoying them more. I thought it was good. Definitely had a melodic rock feel to it. It's harder than when I listen to typically today. So as I've gotten a little older, I don't listen to as much hard rock. And so I was talking to some friends about it, and they were like, well, what are they like? Are like Metallica? I'm like, no, not Metallica. I was trying to come up with a band name as well. But yeah, it was good.
Maybe I would say Rat.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to describe. I can't really compare Harem Scarem.
Nobody's super big, I thought. Did they, you know, a few bands they did remind me of, but then they would be probably as obscure as they are.
Well, I mean, Harry Hess, the singer, unique voice, Pete Lesperon, guitars. I mean, it's just a fantastic album, and go find it. It's Harem Scarem, Mood Swings.
Mood Swings. Okay. Well, and I'm going to what's their debut album called? Do you know that offhand?
I can find it for you real quick.
Okay. Why don't you look that up for a minute, and then we'll move on to our second album here. But I would like to go back, and now that I've listened to Harem Scarem, Mood Swings, I'd like to go back and listen to their first one based on what I read and some of the contributions from other bands like Honeymoon Suite that were on that first one.
Let's
find it?
Not yet.
Okay. No pressure. No pressure.
You're
no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
I don't have it.
87.
Yep. All right, we'll come back to that. You can mention it while we're talking.
I see nothing in 87.
That's when they formed. Maybe they didn't put an album out then. That's when they formed, at least. All right. We'll come back. You ready to move on?
I'm ready to move. I can multitask.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the Struts. So this was a band that I gave the album to listen to you, which is a new album. So you gave me an album from 1993. This album came out in 2023. So big difference. So this is a band that's still fairly new as well. They've only released 4 albums. They formed in 2012.
English band.
English band. That's right. They're an English band.
Guess what their first album was called?
Their first album?
No, the first album of Harem Scarem.
What?
Harem Scarem.
Okay.
In
Good,
1991.
Okay. Now we know. Okay. That should be easy to find then.
Like Kiss Kiss.
So I found the Struts, and I don't know if I found them because the song was on there, or I just happened to notice. But as I was listening to albums during COVID, because there was a lot of downtime, I listened to their album they put out in 2020 called Strange Days. And on that album, they have Do You Love Me, cover by Kiss, or a cover of Kiss, I guess. And so I thought that was a great album. And so I've been listening to some of their older stuff along the way. And then this album came out in 2023. And tell me what you thought of the Struts.
A capable band of producing some catchy material, but I believe they need some outside songwriting help.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the songs are very Rolling Stone-ish.
They opened for the Rolling Stones at one time.
Yeah, you can tell the influence of the Rolling Stones.
Yep.
And I'm more of a Beatles person. You got some people like the Beatles, some people like the Rolling Stones. I like the melodic sound of the Beatles. And this is more Rolling Stone-ish.
Okay.
Which I don't care for.
Which you're not as big as me. Yeah, that's a good pickup. It's interesting. They've been around for a while, and they have this is another band with a strong following, and they're actually on tour right now, pretty headlining. So they're headlining smaller venues as opposed to in the past, like they've been the opening act for the Stones before. So
the song "Pretty Vicious" is a good song. It is a good song. "I Won't Run" is a good song.
Yep.
I don't like from an album standpoint. I don't believe you should ever end an album with a ballad.
Yeah, they got a severe ballad at the end.
I'm always about you should end an album with uplifting and make people wanting more.
When I listened to this album today before we did this on my way to the studio, and I cut it off at that last song.
Yeah.
But I love the rest of the album. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, the song is good, but it's not.
It's a good song.
It's not my favorite.
They should have just changed the
order
of the songs just a little bit and ended the album on a high, something more energetic.
Yep. My favorite songs on that album are "Too Good at Raising Hell," which opens the album, and then it goes right into "Pretty Vicious," which was their single.
Very good.
"Rockstar" I like, which is a little bit later in the album, and then "Better Love," which is really a pure radio song. If they decide to
Better Love had a good chorus.
Yes,
I thought the chorus was very good on Better Love.
Now this band is interesting. So I was reading. They remind me of like a modern day Queen.
Yeah, I can see that.
He is a pure showman. The rest of the band is rock band. And when you do some reading up, like people compare them to like the Darkness. I don't know if you know the Darkness.
Yep, I do.
Greta Van Fleet, which I didn't really think that, but that's what I had read. And then Queen came up.
I can see the Darkness.
Yeah. So I like their
Justin Hawkins.
Yes. And he can do that.
Yes, he can. Much better than I can.
Right. Yeah, I think this is if you're looking for newer music, I think this band is a proof that good music is still being made today. And if you're liking new music, this band is a good one to go listen to. And if you're not into picking an album, if you go out and listen to a Struts playlist and they pull in some of their bigger hits from their previous album, and they have this, I don't know why bands do this, but they have this habit of releasing songs by themselves. So as soon as they released Pretty Vicious, they released a single probably within 6 months that is good enough to be the lead single off of this album. It's called Heaven's, see if I can say it right. Heaven's Got Nothing on You, I think it is. And they released that, Heaven's Got Nothing on You. And they released that single shortly after the album. So, and they do that. There's several singles that are probably some of their best, like "Falling for You" or "Falling with You," or maybe "Falling with Me." But as good as the stuff on the album, the live performances are supposed to be awesome. Anybody that talks about them, their live stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure they have the influence of the British rock.
Yep.
And the Def Leppards and the Queens of Stones, the Who.
Yep.
I'm sure they have taken on all that influence and molded it into a Struts show.
They were in Cincinnati last month, and I missed them, unfortunately.
Oh.
And but we'll catch them later.
At Bogart's, or
they were at one of the new venues on the river.
Oh,
Brady Center.
Yeah, Brady Center. Yeah,
Brady Center.
So, I haven't been there yet.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Lillian Axe. You say it, and then I will say it again.
Psychoschizophrenia.
Psychoschizophrenia. Okay. I do know the band Lillian Axe. I've heard of Lillian Axe going into this, and so and they were around in the 80s.
They were around in the 80s. First album was actually produced by Robin Crosby, guitarist of Rat.
That's right. So they started in 83, and so they were around during the entire phase of hair bands. Big time. So 83. This album, you stayed in 93. So this is another period where they're releasing albums still, and then they hit the grunge era, and Nirvana's popular, and
what happened? Well, the first album, I guess maybe through Robin Crosby's influence, it was very straightforward, kind of hair metal-ish, very, very good, but just nothing stood out. I guess good songs, but then they became their own band, and if you listen to the lyrics, I'm a big lyric person.
You are a big lyric. You told me listening to these albums, listen to the lyrics.
So the lyrics on a lot of Lillian Axe songs have a bit of Christianity, kind of in the lyrics somewhere. Another band, King's X, also has a lot of Christianity in there, and I guess it speaks to me. There's a song on here about the needle in your pain, about a child going through cancer treatment, and it's just the lyrics are just so deep and meaningful, and so I don't know. This album just speaks to me.
I couldn't find out for sure, but it looked like they had released at least 10 studio albums, but I couldn't find an accurate count.
Well, they went through a process, or went through a time where they changed lead singers.
Okay.
Quite a bit, and when they did that, they lost me.
Okay, so that was after 93.
Yeah, I think they had another release sometime after this, and I think it was a bunch of demos and some extra songs. With Ron Taylor, who's the lead singer off the first few Lillian Axe albums. Great singer. Steve Blaze as the guitarist, and it's a songwriter. He writes every song.
Yep.
Writes all the lyrics. Very talented person.
Now I'm going to ask, since they came out in 83, that's like the hot zone for a band like this.
Yep.
So they didn't get as big as some of the other bands that could have been. I mean, you got a wide range of bands. As I was listening to them, I'm thinking about, Great White, Rat, so many bands in that era that got big. I mean, maybe Great White's didn't get huge, but they certainly were popular enough at one point. Lillian Axe wouldn't fall into that.
Not this album.
Okay.
I would say the first album, maybe even the second album.
Yeah.
Maybe even the third album.
Who would you compare them to around that same era? Who are they most like?
Well, again, the first album, I would say they're kind of like Rat.
Yep.
With a much better lead singer. But after that, they became their own band. Yeah. Found their voice, and I would compare them to. man, their songs are just so well written. I don't know who to compare them to. Maybe a Hard Foreigner.
Hard Corner. Now they did they have a lot of music videos on MTV back in the day?
First couple albums.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And then it kind of went away.
kind of went away. Okay, yeah, I'm reading a book now. We'll have to bring it for a future episode about the start of MTV, and it is just great. Just talking about how that whole era was, and so it ties into that whole thing, I think.
So what songs did I tell you?
So, all right. Well, you talk about a couple real quick, and I'll pull up the list, and then I'll tell you. What's your favorite on there?
Crucified and Deep Freeze. Deep Freeze may be my favorite.
Yeah, you gave me that one. And then you gave me Crucified, Deep Freeze. I think you gave me Moonlight.
Moonlight in Your Blood.
I think so. And then
Now
Deep,
you know.
Deep Blue Shadows.
Deep Blue Shadows. Yeah.
Yeah, Deep Blue Shadows. Yeah, I liked it. I would say probably of the two bands, I like this album better than the first one.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Yep.
I thought you would really
I don't know.
for Harem Scarem.
It seemed to connect a little bit better. Who knows? I was what I started doing. So I told you I would listen to one album and then I'd listen to the other one on another day.
Right.
And then when you gave me the songs, and I had 8 songs total, I would listen to them all together. So yeah, I tended to like the Lillian Axe songs a little better.
Like I said, I mean, they are just talented people. Unfortunately, Ron Taylor left the band. Steve Blaze continues on with another singer. I think this is maybe the third or fourth singer.
Yep.
Since Ron left.
Wow.
And
that's hard.
Yeah, and everybody else has changed as well in the band, and I don't know. It's one of those bands that I love, and actually, I got to see them in Louisville on the tour for Psychoschizophrenia.
Oh, nice! Who were they with?
It's a sad story.
Okay.
Because you remember the Phoenix, what it was called?
Oh yeah,
Bardstown Road.
The theater.
It was like, I don't know what it was. Phoenix something. Phoenix Tavern, I think is what it's called.
Oh, okay. It's not the theater down
there. No, this is a bar.
Okay. So they were there with?
They were there by themselves.
By themselves, okay.
And this was 1993, and I may have been one of 10 people. I felt so sorry for them. But it was they did every song.
They did well.
They did. They went forth and performed like it was a full house. I got to meet the band afterward, and I have a signed CD.
Oh, cool.
From the band. They treated me very nicely.
Yeah.
Good guys, and I just really think that they deserve much better than what they got back in the early 90s.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to move to the fourth album, and we're going to jump big because this is probably easily the most popular band of our list today.
Yes.
This is a monster band, Foo Fighters, that started in 94. And I think both of us would say that we're really not the Foo Fighters fan base. I never really got into Foo Fighters for whatever reason after they started in 94. And they in the 2000s and 2010s, they got really big. They've released 11 albums so far. It started, Dave Grohl, their singer, was the drummer for Nirvana. Everybody knows that. And he was looking for an outlet after Nirvana ended for his solo work. And so it was basically Dave Grohl solo albums. And he picked the name Foo Fighters and had some rotation of musicians. And then they became huge. So they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame today. I picked, so Medicine Midnight is probably the first album that I ever listened to. I knew their songs. I didn't ever really like their songs. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, some of them are good.
Yeah.
But then when Dave starts screaming.
Yep. He likes to do that.
Yeah, he likes to scream, and it kind of turned me off.
So I always wondered why I didn't like, not that I didn't like, but why I never became a fan of Foo Fighters. So this album came out again during the COVID same time frame as the other one that I mentioned. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a big shot. And I listened to this album. And I'm like, this is great. And if you listen to this album, and if you ask most Foo Fighter fans, they're like, this is not my favorite album. They would be, this is not in the Foo Fighter mainstream album. In fact, if you read the interviews and some of the reviews, Dave Grohl says this is a David Bowie album that Foo Fighters did.
And I have never heard, I never saw that. You know, I've never heard that quote.
Yes.
And I swear to God,
Same thing.
that I thought this sounds like David Bowie.
Yes. It's way off there. And it's funny because after I listened to this album and I liked it so much, I went back to listen to the older albums. Couldn't get into them. They're so different than this album.
Well, this one has. There's a lot of funk.
Yes,
it's funkified.
Yes, a lot more poppy than the other stuff.
Some of the like 4 songs. There's like really 4 songs that really have a funk rhythm to it, and they're catchy.
Yes,
and catchy. It's whereas the Struts were, you know, I'm not saying that every song sounds the same on the Struts, but it was, you know, kind of on repeat.
Yep.
This was a lot more diverse.
Very diverse. And you still hear Grohl yell.
Yeah, he yells. I mean, it's what he does.
It's what he does. Now, it's interesting. So, now I think the album just on this one opens up super strong with Making a Fire.
So, I will confess that I listened quickly to this album.
Yes.
Years ago.
Oh, really? Okay. And it's been out since, what did I say, 20?
Yeah. So 20. I had added a few of these songs to my playlist on Spotify.
So you knew this album a little bit.
But if a song doesn't catch me in 30 seconds, I'm moving on to the next one.
Okay.
So I'd never listened to the entire album.
Okay.
Until you gave me the assignment, and I did as I was told. And yeah, it's a good album. Okay. I was pleasantly surprised as well.
I think, their single at the time was Shame, Shame. So they had a video that they did of it. Making a Fire is really good. Cloud Spotter is a fun song. Medicine at Midnight is a David Bowie song through and through. Probably the last song on the album, Love Dies Young, is the Foo Fighters song. So it sounds like their other albums. I think it gets a little weaker as it goes.
Yeah, I think it was, there was some filler toward the end of the album.
Yeah.
There's only 9 songs. Right. So when you say there's filler on a 9 song album, maybe you should have waited a little longer, Dave, to get some additional material. But first, I'd say 6 songs are pretty good.
Strong.
Yep.
Now their drummer passed away shortly after this,
right.
Taylor Hawkins, and they were quiet for about a year, and he had a big part in this album, I think. And sort of design, the drum work in that album was just amazing. Now, if you go back, if you like this album, and I will say, depending on your Foo Fighters fandom, the next album they did one in 2023, so last year, called But Here We Are. It's very similar to Medicine at Midnight, but it's much more solemn. Okay. I think the death of their drummer is all through that album, right. And so there's not as upbeat, fun songs, but it is a very good. It's not like their older albums again. It's much more in this line. I like both those albums, and I'm not a fan of the old ones. Yeah. So, and they have a new drummer now. I mean, they're immensely popular. They were also in Cincinnati in the last month and sold out the stadium, and their fan base is just locked into them. And I think Dave Grohl is immensely talented. I like listening to him.
And he sounds like a guy that you want to hang out with.
Yes. Have a drink with.
Yes. I mean, he is just a laid back dude. He's just, he actually, I'm a certified barbecue judge. So Dave Grohl actually does barbecue for the homeless, and he does a lot of volunteering, and just seems like a good dude.
He does. I think he does this for the fun of it. I think it really hurt when they lost the drummer and they were friends. And so I think he's finding his footing again. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. They were doing some crazy things right around Medicine at Midnight. There's some other concept albums that came out. But are you telling me we're at 30 minutes?
Yeah, we're 30 minutes. 3-0.
I was about to cough as well. So all of that was, yes, we are at 30 minutes. And so, which is our goal in this podcast.
Yes.
So, so you give what was your, we didn't do ratings today, but give me a rating for Medicine at Midnight.
8.
8. Okay. I like this one. This is one I pull up frequently.
Struts, 5, 6, 5.5. 5.5. Go 5.5.
I would do like 6 to 7 for Lillian Axe, maybe 5 for Harem Scarem. Am I allowed to say just Harem? Is that
no, Harem Scarem.
I
really thought you would like Harem Scarem
Reversing.
more than Lillian Axe.
Well, we try to keep each other on our toes. All right, we are at 30. We try to keep it to that. So thank you for joining for episode 3.
What's our next topic, Jeff?
Next topic. Well, we covered this quickly earlier. Where I think we changed it last time, so it's a little cheating, but I think we're going to talk about our best concert experiences during our next podcast.
Can we also talk about our worst as well?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
I have one was pretty bad.
There's some bad ones in there.
Yeah.
And there's some good ones.
Yep.
I know what number 1 will be for both of us, but we'll talk about that next time. Close.
Yeah. It'll be on my top 3. Yeah.
Top 2, 3. Okay.
You were actually at probably my number 1 as well.
Okay. All right.
But a different one than what you're thinking.
Okay. Well, we'll cover that in next episode. All right. Well, thanks for joining today. We appreciate it. Again, we have a Twitter page. We have a Instagram page. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page. We appreciate likes, shares, bookmarks, whatever you can do to share the good stories.
So why should people listen to us? Who are we? We're just normal 50-somethings.
Yes.
That love music.
Love music.
We're nobody special.
Right.
We're not in a band. Have no history in music industry. We're just like you.
Yeah. We've been having these conversations since we were 10.
Yes. So
same kind, and we're just doing them on video now.
Yep. And we just recording each other, having a good time, sharing our love of music with each other and whoever wants to listen.
And the millions of listeners that are listening.
Yeah. Yes. So we would appreciate if you would share and talk about us on your social media pages and we just thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.